Welcome back. It's so good to be with everyone again and good to be with Matt live and in Keller in the studio.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it's been a long time, so thanks for bearing with us through remote access and furry backgrounds and all that. So today we're back and together, and we're excited to talk about a topic very near and dear to our hearts, and that's client reference stories, the language that we can use to draw in making reference to our clients, and then draw in some of the things our clients might like to say.
Yeah, when we always talk about, we don't want to use language of I, obviously. And then we think there's that next level, we as a firm. And I think this is an opportunity to even go a step further from we to us, right? Us being our clients that we have, and not us saying it, not the firm saying it, but what others that have dealt with us or do business with us. It's really, really powerful. And how do we harness that? And I think you have an example that you heard of that.
Absolutely. And when we talk about client reference stories, just to level set and remind those who have heard it and refresh those to whom it's new. When we talk about client reference stories, we like to think about, if I were to call a client and say, hey, if you could take a reference call, what would you say? That's that language, right? And then it's the second fold, or the second situation is, if I refer to a client, when I refer to client situations, those are client reference stories. So when we position our conversations with prospects or even with other clients, and we say, your situation sounds a lot like ABC company, who we work with, and they were struggling with blah. And what we were able to do was help them. We don't always want to use the name of the client, especially if they've asked us not to. But when we can say a company that looks like yours, or a firm that looks like yours that's in this area, here's what they were struggling with. Here was our approach. Here's how we helped them. That's referring to a client, right? That's a client reference story.
Yeah, it's a great clarification, simply because for many of us, references come at the end of a sales cycle, but client reference stories are so much more versatile than just at the end. But before we get there, I want to back up. Our clients would say this of us. How many have asked your clients, when you're building decks, when you're going down value props, when you're doing elevator pitches, how many of you spend an incredible amount of time on that? A lot. That's usually the first thing that when we work with a new client, they're so excited to say, let's dig into the elevator pitch.
Right.
And more oftentimes than not, it's all about what they think. So, I think
that's where we talk the language of us, right?
Yes.
When we're talking to people and we use the language of us, it sounds like we have 2 offices in 2 states, and we have 600 people, and we have 19 products that we could offer people. So what?
In 650 years of combined experience,
right?
The combined experience always gets me, because I'm just like, so is everyone like 88, ready to retire? Are you going to be around? I mean, I'm not that old of a guy.
Right.
I want to make sure that I'm okay.
Yeah. So when people say, oh, we have average tenure of 40 years, so everybody's old. I mean, like, we use all this language that we think is powerful, but it's the language of us, and it doesn't convey value to the prospect. It doesn't convey value to the client. And client reference stories, they help us start to convey value. They help us start to say, here's what's important to you. Because our experience is important only if it has value to you. But if, we've been doing things bad for 40 years, why would you want to work with us? Right? It's not about how long we've been doing it. It's what's the results we're delivering.
Without a doubt. So just so we don't lose that point, it's critical and a great idea if we call clients going down, the value of how we impact them, much more important than what we have to say, what they say. So that's number one. But just
can I give you an example? And what that might sound like, by the way, is when people ask the question, and I don't know how often people ask it this direct, but if you thought about somebody asking you the question, why would I work with you? What would you say? For many of us, it's, oh, well, we have, 3 offices, and we have 25 people, and we have this and we have that. Okay, those are all features. So we get into feature preaching. But what we really should say is, our clients would tell you X. Matt, you and I were talking about an example of somebody that had been at a trade show recently. And the first presenter that got up, it was a trade show with a lot of attorneys. The first person that got on stage said, let me tell you a little bit about our firm. We have 400 attorneys in 13 states and and we manage, we have 46 practice areas. The next attorney that spoke said, I could give you all the stats on our firm, but I just think you ought to know we're scrappy and we'll work hard for you. And I was like, wow, which one connects with you more? Right? Because everybody that gets up is going to give you features. But when somebody says we're scrappy and we're going to work hard for you, I can connect with it. I'll sign up. I want to learn more.
Yeah.
Right. I want to learn more.
Scrappy,
from you.
I'm in. So anybody
right.
that's going to sell me something, you tell me you're scrappy, I'm automatically buying. Say no more.
Yeah, I'll send you a purchase order. But what if they would have said, and one critique I have for that attorney is, what if she would have said, our clients would tell you we're scrappy and we work hard for them. That's the client reference story. When we use language of them, the language of our clients, the language of our prospects, and we can convey our clients would tell you. So you think about that. If somebody were to say to you, why would I work with you? And you come up with features and you're thinking about numbers that aren't, we help grow our client sales by 26%, right? If it's not directly related back to a client, back to somebody you work with, if it's a number about you, if it's a feature about you, it probably isn't resonating and it probably doesn't have a lot of value for them. So when you are asked, why would I work with you? Get your head around, our clients would tell you that. Our clients would say.
Yeah, if we look on the spectrum, if you're answering something, that's out.
Get rid of it.
We, okay.
Better.
Our clients would tell you is probably the best. And
Ding, 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 ring the bell.
Absolutely. So I guess just to expand upon that a little bit, I really think the versatility we talked about at the beginning of when and how we can use this. And so I think number one thing that a lot of, I'd say, new clients that we work on and have to go through is that question. Why would I work with you? Or tell me about your business, or you're out networking. It seems like a softball, but it tongue ties so many people. And it's that trap of going into the I, or maybe even the we. So, I think the first moment we can do that is, well, our clients would tell you, it's a great way. Or typically we work with people if they exhibit this, that, the other challenge. So think about that. It's a little bit different than our clients would tell you, but I think it's still in the same realm. It's a great opportunity to solve that. Well, what do you do?
We've traditionally had success with people who are trying to accomplish blank. We've traditionally had success and been able to help people who've been struggling with blank and are looking for this future desired state. That's positioning yourself as a solution provider versus just wanting to tell people all kinds of things about yourself, telling people why you think you're great versus connecting with the results and the solutions we deliver.
Yep. I think
people won't pay for you thinking you're great, by the way.
Really?
No.
I'm still trying to cash that check, but
No,
maybe that's why.
Yeah, people are unwilling to pay for what you think you're great at. People will line up to pay for results, experience, and solutions that you deliver for others.
Yep, absolutely. The second scenario, we've talked about it, differentiation, talking about strengths, our clients would tell you. I think, we have that down. The third one is, I think, perhaps if we're at a crossroad in the sales cycle where, we're able to talk about, in our experience, typically clients fall into two categories at this point. And be able to explain, maybe leveraging clients and their outcomes if they chose one path versus the other. This sounds like an experience we had with ABC, or maybe you don't name, the actual client, but just the power of talking through that rather than, and this is usually when we're trying to keep momentum, typically when there might be a curveball, right, at the 11th hour, or maybe the 10th hour, and we're trying to push it through. To use those client reference stories to talk about in our experience, it's a great way. It's a great alternative to show that we've been there. Maybe get them to think like that client, I'm probably going to give them a good result rather than a bad result of someone else in that situation. And so I think it's an opportunity to do that as well towards the end of a sales cycle, or while you're actually in a sales cycle.
Yeah, and you said something that's important. I think we would otherwise brush over it, but sometimes if somebody's even postponing or stalling, somebody goes, really like everything you're talking about. I need 3 months. Let's get back together in 3 months. Happy years kick in as a sales guy, right? So my happy years kick in and I think, ooh, they like me. They like me so much, they want to start working with me in 3 months. If your experience tells you probably not going to work with them in 3 months, we should be asking people and say, oh, what's going to happen in 3 months? What makes 3 months right? And if they're like, oh, we just need some time. It's okay to use our experience in this moment and say, typically when somebody tells me that, I think historically they've been trying to be nice to me. And they're not sure either, number one, as Matt says, put them in buckets, right? They're not sure, number one, of how they would engage, or number two, we've failed to really earn your confidence in the fact that we could help you. And I would make that statement, leave it pregnant, ... right? Think of the points of ellipsis. I love making statements and just letting them hang and waiting, leaving a little silence and letting somebody jump in. If somebody doesn't jump in and say, oh, no, we just, we're having budget issues and we need to work through the budget. Okay, well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, tell me more.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Tell me more about that. So let's work through that versus just, I'm going to follow up with you in 3 months. But if they don't jump into that, it's okay to say, which of those sounds more like your situation? And it's giving us that understanding. It's demonstrating we've been here before. We have knowledge. We have experience. We have credibility, right? What's experience over time? It's expertise. So we build expertise through our experiences. It's great to share those with others.
And in our experience, like you just demonstrated there about budgeting or the speed, that's versatile. That's the word of this episode as well, because I just talked to someone yesterday about a sales cycle going too quick. And he was excited, but he was saying, something feels a little bit off. That's another opportunity. In our experience, blank, or this seems to be moving, really quick. In our experience, when this comes up in the sales cycle, it means either this or that. So there's a lot of things. If your spidey sense is going up, it's a great way to turn that into a question without being confrontational. Do it proactively.
Right.
In the moment.
Right.
We're not going to start crafting an email in our head about what we're going to send them once we leave. I think it's a great way to use, in our experience, non-threatening language, but still keep leverage in the question.
Keep momentum. Stay in the moment, right? And like Matt said, if things are going too fast and you feel like people are rushing you through, it's okay to ask them why, right? Like you don't want to say to them, why are you doing that? Because remember, we talked about the impact of why questions. They put up people's defenses. But it's great to reference back to something and say, whenever in the past I've experienced people trying to move things quickly, there's something going on I've failed to uncover or I've failed to learn. What else do you think I need to know about why we're trying to move so quickly?
You'll get an answer to that. I guarantee it, because it's being candid, it's being vulnerable, it's being open. That is truly an invitation to conversation. So
it's giving somebody permission to tell the truth.
Yeah, and that's a takeaway that I wasn't even necessarily thinking about.
Hey, Matt and I learned something from
coming into this one, since we do so much prep. But that's that's really a great way to go about it.
So think about your language, right? Think about if I were to meet with you and I say, hey, tell me why we ought to work with you. Would you share language with us, with me and Matt, about you? Would you use the language of us and start telling us all the great features about your firm or your company, all the great, the logo slides? Would you start telling us about we work with 33% of the Fortune 100? Okay, what about me, right? Or would you flip that? And would you say to somebody, our clients would tell you, or our clients tell us, the reason they work with us is because blank, right? Do you own that? Do you have that? If not, think about what it might be. And then I'd love for you to actually validate it with a client. What if you went out to some of your better clients and said, hey, how are we doing? And if you were to take a reference call for us and someone said, why do you work with them? What would you say? And when you get that information, that's how you start crafting your message. So think about that this week. Think about, do you know why people really work with you? I guarantee it's not because of how many locations you have and how many people you have and how many combined years of experience you have. Everybody expects an expert. They don't expect you to be bad. Why do people really work with you? And if you don't know, how should we go about finding out? Are there a few clients we can go to and ask? Are you willing to have those conversations? Because you might hear something you don't want to hear, but it will make you so much more effective. And it'll allow you to convey that message to all those that need to hear it. So thank you for your time. Always good being back with you, Matt. We'll be back with you guys again next week. In the interim, should you have any questions or any topics you want us to tackle or approach, please share those with us. You can get them to us at info@telericogroup.com. That's info@telericogroup.com. We look forward to taking care of your questions and maybe working in some topics that you're struggling with or meaningful and pertinent to you. Thank you as always. Take care. God bless.